I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from the Netherlands. He works at Dynamic People as a Power Platform lead. He was first awarded as MVP in 2022. He is a Power addict and developer. He learned that creating teams with the same goal and empowering them is the biggest factor for success. You can find links to his bio, social media, etc. in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to be here. And you got it all correct.
Excellent. Well, to get started, I always like to find out a bit about my guests' personal lives. So what they do outside of, the Power Platform dynamics and what they do work-wise. So tell us a bit about the Netherlands. Tell us about the best food to eat in the Netherlands, your favorites anyhow. What do you do for fun, and a bit about your family?
All right, I will start with my family because that's to me the most important part of my life. Apart from, of course, being an MVP. No, I kid. I have a lovely wife, or we're technically not married, but it's weird to say girlfriend when you have 3 kids together. I have a daughter, 6 years old, and twin boys, 4 years old. So our life has been really focused on either work and kids.
I bet. I mean, did you say twins then?
Yeah, twins. Yeah.
That'd be a handful.
That was a handful, especially during lockdowns. Yeah, I have to take a small break from work even to get that going.
Yeah, I bet. So what part of the Netherlands do you live in?
I live in the center, in a village in between Utrecht, Amersfoort, and Amsterdam. So pretty central. Yeah.
Nice. Is there a lot of horticulture around that area?
What kind of culture, sorry?
Horticulture, flowers and or other growing products.
No, we mostly is an urban area with a few cattle farms in between. Yeah.
Very good. And you didn't mention food.
No, I didn't mention food. My favorite food, I don't have any. I just like all of them. I'm not really a food enthusiastic per se. I like greasy food, maybe something sweets. I love sweets. My favorite sweets are sitting next to me as well, M&Ms. Probably should not put it too close to me because then I will eat it all. But yeah.
I love it. So what's your magic skill when it comes to the Power Platform? What areas do you excel in?
Oh, not in Excel, that definitely not. But it's all of the Power Platform I focus on, including the area surrounding it. So also a little bit of Azure, but also modern work. And I'm not necessarily a solution architect per se, but I connect all the dots, and including customer questions, and combining that with the specialists at work who are a lot deeper in certain areas. Yeah.
So you're the Power Platform lead, right?
Yeah.
At Dynamic People. Tell me, so do you have a team of people that work for you?
Yeah, basically we are divided in a few different business units at Dynamic People. We have from ERP to Business Central to Power Platform and BI. And at the Power Platform team, we do both customer engagement and Power Platform areas, excluding Power BI. And we have sub teams with coaches, and I'm both the coach and the technical lead for one of those teams.
So how do you make sure, today build is in full effect, and when we're doing this recording, and of course new public announcements from Microsoft about everything AI, Copilot, a lot of new stuff is landing in the platform all the time. How do you make sure your team stays up to speed skill-wise on all these changes?
I think that's the hardest challenge we all have to face. I have to be honest, I'm a little bit overwhelmed myself with all the Copilot announcements and how that incorporates in our day-to-day work, what we do for customers and how we actually build stuff. And I think that overwhelming feeling is natural. And I think we should all accept that we are getting overwhelmed with all the information. And we, as a company, or I think as a community, we have to consistently look out for each other. On a personal level, that we are grounded, also an important skill for AI, but also grounded that you can cope with everything, but also help each other because you cannot know everything. So what we do at Dynamic People is we have 1 day time for R&D, and we do a lot of knowledge sharing. And I think we should keep learning for new methods to bounce ideas off each other when we're doing customer work. Yeah.
I like it. I noticed in a couple of your blog posts you've recently talked around Power Virtual Agents. Tell us your thoughts on PVA.
Yeah, Power Virtual Agents. I did a couple of projects a few years back. Did not do a project for the last year. But Power Virtual Agents is a special interest of mine because I really like the technology. Not necessarily because I felt like conversation was taking off, especially as it is going now, but more about connecting all the different kinds of the platform with the modern work areas and creating quick wins and keeping people in the flow of work. I like to do Power Virtual Agents for teams, so the internal areas of Power Virtual Agents where you can actually help relieve some of the pressure of the HR department, for example.
Are you seeing, have you looked at all at the Nuance? Microsoft purchased Nuance and they had their own very strong AI chatbot technology already. And we've been told for the last, 12 months, maybe 18 months now, that we're going to see more integrations of that. Now, I don't know whether we're not hearing about it just now because, of course, with Copilot being integrated and the ability to pass a URL right into PVA of a knowledge set that you can then start querying is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you read the latest Power Virtual Agent news around Build today, but there's apparently coming some action sets and automatic API scraping that you can combine with Power Virtual Agents using Copilot, and that was surprising for me as well, how fast the landscape is moving in that direction. And I'm not sure what Nuance is in the picture is doing that, but I believe Microsoft purchased Nuance most for their voice technology. And I've not really looked into the bot building part of Nuance. Yeah.
Gotcha. My understanding is that they purchased Nuance for their medical suite of applications, and the voice and what you got with call center, case management, chat, that was kind of like all icing on the top. It wasn't their primary. But my understanding is that the entire team that was at Nuance from an R&D perspective and product development that was under all that voice piece, all that chatbot layer is now reports up to Charles Lamanna directly. So I can only assume they're not going to keep a forked, it's not really a forked, but two versions of something going forward, right? They're going to consolidate and bring all the best out of that technology. Because I tell you what, is the stuff in Nuance when it comes to chat is absolutely phenomenal, particularly around voice chat, where you ask a multi-part question, right? And it being able to understand the nuance of that question and answer it in context and answer the multi-part of it is so powerful. It's very human-like. And I think, I really think that in the future, when people call into a contact center and or engage with a chatbot, as a human, you're going to ask, am I speaking to AI? And if the answer is yes, you're going to breathe with a sigh of relief, because you know that you're not going to get that, the, dare I say it, the bullshit runaround that sometimes people have taught on help desk calls and stuff to kind of placate you, but not really answer your questions and things like that. I think you're going to get a very precise, accurate answer, which is going to create a much better customer experience. So I'm quite excited about that whole AI chat, voice chat type scenario.
Yeah, especially if you combine it with the magic that is happening with the AI language models that we're seeing today, and then you have the connecting of the voice with large language models to do the answering. Yeah, that's going to be magic. Yeah.
I tell you, I'll confess one thing that I've not understood yet, and I've not probably done enough research on it, is when we look at OpenAI and the Azure service, etc., that's there, and this whole concept of bring your own data, but if you're dealing, let's say, in a banking or a healthcare scenario, there's compliance issues, right, about handing your data off to another entity like potentially OpenAI, but somehow they've created a model where your data is still protected, right? You're not so I don't understand how the large language model or generative AI works against my data set without them getting a copy of my data set. So I've still got to do it. Do you understand that? I don't get it.
I understand the building blocks, but as you said, there's still a bit magic behind the scenes that's going on. First of all, OpenAI Microsoft has a copy of OpenAI language model on Azure. So that means it stays in the same boundaries of that Azure model.
You've just solved it for me.
There's still the vector searching that's going on with your data, and that vector is used by grounding inside that large language model. And well, that's where it gets a bit magical for me, because how can you dissolve vector it into relevant search information? But they solved it and it works great. So that's amazing.
That's what I find incredible, is that with what has changed so much in the last, I don't know, since November, when we first heard about ChatGPT and really, even though, inside as an MVP, I had heard about GPT-3 being used in the Power Platform maybe 2 years ago. I remember it coming out. I'm pretty sure I did some posts and stuff on it at the time. And so it's been around for a while, but it obviously hit an inflection point where it took off, right? And, with what happened there. I am now a bit frustrated with she who shall not be named, right? The device on that I can talk to in my home and get to do different things. How unintelligent that now feels.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're just like, I use commands. So when I come into my studio here, I say, blah, 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 studio go, right? That's my command, studio go. That's all. And what it does, turns on all my monitors, turns on all my lights, turns on all the power for the computer, all the different power sets, camera, that type of thing. And I've been doing this for 3 years. And, day after day, she'll go, I've searched for studios in your local area, and these are the studios I've found. And I'm like, it's the same command, and I've given you every variant, but you seems that you have no ability to learn. That's the same command. I'm not asking for a Google search of this. I'm asking the same command over and over again. So I just feel that and I reckon the desktop AI at the desktop layer in Windows 11 and whatever future versions, I think it's a game changer in what's possible, what could happen there.
Yeah, and I share your frustration because I had the other person who's not to be named in this show, and I quickly threw it out because uh, it felt more like work to get it to work than fun to work with it. And I was hoping to have more fun with it, with starting my home automation journey, and I stopped. I stopped because the interface was so clunky. I could as well press buttons.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't stop. I've got over 200 IP connected devices now around me in my building, outside, inside. I can monitor everything from my water tank levels because I've got a bit of a little acreage here, and yeah, I'm getting constant data, and I love data, like real-time data from everything. And I really wanted to learn it because I'm building a house soon, and I wanted to make sure that I had that house tracked out as much as possible to be, eco-friendly, low energy consumption, but also using all the latest around connected devices. And of course, I'm really hoping that the A lady and the GH lady will get to that point where it is totally voice-driven, immersive. I can ask it, and a couple other things I think that they need to get right is the APIs for those. Like, it won't let me, for example, consume my work calendar. And I would love to go, hey, give me a breakdown of my day without having to visually look at something, right? Tell me what I've got. Give me voice reminders and say, hey, upcoming, you've got this. And I notice that you are outside in the garden. You need to get back inside, There's an appointment coming up, that type of thing. I'm hoping that we'll get to that level of intelligence within 2 years, I'm hoping.
And I'm seeing it happen with the ecosystem that's going to of the plugins with ChatGPT that's going to be brought over to the Azure OpenAI stack, and I think that will take off. That should definitely take off, and then help you with your calendar integrations. And if only Microsoft would bring in their own version of the voice input together with Nuance, ChatGPT, that will be game changing.
I mean, do you know, when you say that, and I jumped to my computer and I was trying to find what the little circle was. They used to have, there was a chatbot on the desktop, wasn't there?
Yeah, it wasn't Clippy, but I think it was Cortana.
Cortana, like, Cortana, once again, I am surprised we've heard nothing, because if anything, if Microsoft wanted to now leapfrog those other two major brands, I think now is the time. Like, you imagine, I mean, yeah, I can imagine a world where I use voice input so much more in my day-to-day work if that was enabled in the technology layer. But yeah, time will tell, I suppose.
Then you can work on a widescreen and actually have the input or the data coming through your audio if you need anything, instead of moving to your computer to Google or Bing something.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it had the context of whichever device you were closest to, that it said, hey, I'll tell you on that because it's obviously closest to your ears that you're going to hear, whether it be my mobile phone, whether it be one of those devices around my house that I can talk to. I think that'd be a pretty powerful story.
Yeah,
tell me.
It is how quickly you, when I prepared for the show, when I prepared for my introductions, I found that I used to be quite privacy or private person online. I stopped using Facebook. I'm slowly moving away from Twitter as well. But when you're becoming an MVP, there's probably something that you have to do is profile yourself. And now I've quickly shared a lot of personal data from myself, which I was normally not comfortable with. And if you're talking now about your home automation suite and your whereabouts, if it's that usable, then I will probably give away all my locations.
Yeah, and I think all the kind of Black Mirror stuff or edge cases around what could potentially happen to you that we've been brought up with for years, the fear of that. I know without a doubt that Facebook is listening, as in they've just, I think an article came out just recently that WhatsApp, for example, is using that data. And how many times have you said something and all of a sudden you get advertised to, and you'll know that you haven't searched it or anything as in via a keyboard, and it pops up. But it was interesting. I was in China for a piece, and I was talking to a guy that took my wife and I for a day trip across the Great Wall of China. We went 100K out of Beijing to get to an area where the tourists kind of weren't. And we're talking, I brought up about privacy and stuff, and he said, you've got to understand in China, there's no concept of privacy. Nobody's brought up to feel that there is a right to privacy. So it's just not a thing. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that interesting? And I feel that the next generations coming through, they're just not going to think about it that same way, that we are, I was brought up in a generation where you didn't talk about politics, you didn't talk about religion, you didn't talk about sex, right? Or money was the other one, right? But now all that's fair game with the current generation, right? They are very with their friends, etc. They're out there.
Yeah.
How do you manage work-life balance?
I don't. No, it manages me. As I mentioned, we had quite a busy time with the kids, and both me and Cindy, my girlfriend, both really like to work. We enjoy the challenge, we enjoy the connectivity, we enjoy being out there and challenging ourselves to grow. That leaves us struggling, and that leaves us with choices we have to make, and a mindset that we try to shift from being bummed out that you have to choose for something, from being glad that you can choose something. We can choose to do more social stuff, where we can choose to invest more in our work life. We do not choose, or our main priority is our family life, and that's something that is just number one. And then managing that social time and sharing the time, because she is entitled to the same amount of work events or outside work events that I have, going to conferences and whatnot. That's a challenge, and I think that's the most difficult part that we do in our calendar, to make sure everything is connected and moving in the right direction. Yeah.
I like it. Ben, as we wrap up, what advice do you have to other people that aspire to be an MVP?
I don't think you should aspire to be an MVP. I think if you like to do community work and to do that in this atmosphere, in the community, in the Microsoft community, then it will come natural to you. What you do need to look out for, and I can think when I started my blog, that was 6 years ago, your blog, Mark, was really helpful, because that set me up in the right direction to start slowly profiling yourself. That's something you do need to think about if you have this little goal of yourself to become an MVP eventually, or not have it off the table. But you should enjoy the work that comes with it, because creating content or sharing your knowledge or hosting community events, that's going to be a lot of work anyway. And if you don't enjoy that, then you should not even try to become an MVP.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.